Hello and welcome. Find a comfortable place to settle in. Let your shoulders drop, let your breathing slow. Tonight, we're going on a gentle journey through the animal kingdom, exploring the sleepiest creatures on Earth. There's no rush here, no urgency, just curiosity, wonder, and the soft pull of rest. As we move through these stories, you might find your own eyes growing heavy. That's perfectly fine. In fact, that's exactly as it should be. So let's begin, slowly, peacefully, with the champion sleepers of our world. Deep in the darkness of a cave, suspended from ancient stone, hangs a small creature wrapped in leathery wings, the brown bat. Of all the mammals on Earth, the brown bat sleeps the most, resting for nearly 20 hours each day. 20 hours. Imagine that. While the world turns and the sun crosses the sky, the bat remains still, hanging upside down in complete darkness, lost in the deepest sleep. But why? Why would any creature spend so much of its existence in slumber? The answer lies in the mathematics of survival. Bats have extraordinarily high metabolic rates when they're awake. Their tiny hearts race, beating over 1,000 times per minute during flight. Their wings, thin membranes stretched between elongated finger bones, require enormous amounts of energy to power. Every insect they catch, every moment of flight, burns through calories at an astonishing rate. So they've evolved a solution, elegant in its simplicity. They sleep. During sleep, a bat's heart rate drops dramatically. Its body temperature falls. Its metabolism slows to a whisper. In this state, called torpor, the bat uses only a fraction of the energy it would need while awake. It's not just resting. It's conserving, preserving, making every calorie stretch further. In environments where food can be scarce, where the next meal is never guaranteed, this ability to simply switch off, to lower the flame of life to barely flickering, becomes the difference between surviving and perishing. And there's something else. Bats are nocturnal. They've claimed the night as their kingdom, navigating through darkness using echolocation, sending out sounds and listening to the echoes that bounce back. While we sleep, they fly. While we wake, they sleep. They've inverted the world, found a niche where competition is less fierce, where the airways belong to them. During the day, predators hunt. Hawks circle. Dangers multiply. But in the cave, in the darkness, hanging upside down with their wings wrapped around them like cloaks, they're safe. Sleep becomes not just rest, but sanctuary. The cave itself embraces them. The temperature remains constant, cool and stable. No sun penetrates here to disturb their slumber. No wind blows. The darkness is absolute, perfect. Hundreds or thousands of bats might hang together, a living ceiling of sleeping bodies, each one trusting the ancient stone above them, trusting the darkness, trusting sleep itself. There's something profound in that trust, isn't there? To let go so completely, to surrender to unconsciousness for 20 hours, to exist in that space between waking and something deeper. Scientists have discovered that bats experience different stages of sleep, just as we do. They have REM sleep, that mysterious state where dreams might come. Do bats dream? We can't know for certain, but their brains show the same patterns ours do during those periods. Perhaps they dream of flight, of soaring through darkness, of the taste of moths on the wing. Or perhaps their dreams are something else entirely, something we couldn't begin to imagine. Either way, in their sleep, they're doing something essential. Their brains are processing, consolidating, preparing for the next night's hunt. And when winter comes, some species take sleep even further. They hibernate, entering a state so deep that they appear almost lifeless. Their body temperature drops until it nearly matches the air around them. Their breathing becomes imperceptible. They can go for hours without taking a breath. In this state, they can survive for months without food, their bodies slowly metabolizing fat stores, their lives reduced to the barest flicker of existence. It's a kind of death that isn't death, a pause in living that allows life to continue. As spring returns and warmth creeps back into the world, they wake. Slowly, gradually, the internal furnace reignites. Hearts begin to beat faster, body temperature rises, wings stretch, and once again they take to the darkening sky. But for now, in this moment, they sleep. And in their sleep, they teach us something. That rest is not laziness. That sleep is not weakness. That sometimes the wisest thing a creature can do is simply hang in the darkness and let the world continue without them for a while. From the darkness of caves, let us journey now to another sleeper, one who makes its home beneath the earth itself. In the forests and grasslands of South America, there lives an armored wanderer, a creature that looks as though it has stepped out of time itself. The giant armadillo. This remarkable animal sleeps for over 18 hours each day, curled in deep burrows underground, its plated shell protecting it even in sleep. The giant armadillo is the largest of its kind, weighing up to 170 pounds, stretching over 5 feet from nose to tail. Its body is covered in tough, bony plates, bands of armor that give it an ancient, prehistoric appearance. And indeed, armadillos are ancient. They're related to extinct creatures called glyptodonts, enormous armored mammals that roamed the Americas thousands of years ago. Looking at a giant armadillo is like looking back through time, seeing echoes of a vanished world. But this armor comes at a cost. It's heavy. Moving that weight through the world requires energy, lots of it. So the giant armadillo has adapted. It sleeps deeply and often, conserving energy in the cool darkness of its burrow. These burrows are marvels of engineering, tunnels that can stretch 30 feet or more underground, wide enough for the armadillo to turn around in, deep enough to maintain a constant, comfortable temperature regardless of what's happening above ground. Underground, the armadillo is safe. Predators can't reach it. The temperature doesn't fluctuate. It's dark and quiet, perfect conditions for sleep. The armadillo enters its burrow as the sun rises, leaving behind the world of light and heat. It curls up, its armored tail wrapped around its body, and it sleeps. For 18 hours it remains there, its metabolism slow, its breathing gentle, its body still. What allows the giant armadillo to sleep so much is partly its diet. It feeds primarily on termites and ants, using its powerful claws to tear into their mounds and nests. A single giant armadillo can consume thousands of insects in one night. But insects, while numerous, aren't particularly calorie-dense. The armadillo must eat vast quantities to meet its energy needs. And digesting all those insects takes time, takes energy. So the armadillo sleeps, allowing its specialized digestive system to work slowly and efficiently, extracting every bit of nutrition from its meals. There's also the matter of metabolic rate. The giant armadillo has one of the lowest metabolic rates of any mammal its size. Its body simply doesn't burn through energy quickly. This is an adaptation to its environment, to the availability of food, to the demands of carrying armor everywhere it goes. By keeping its metabolic fires burning low, by spending most of its time asleep, the giant armadillo can survive on less, can make it through periods when food is scarce, can exist in balance with its environment. The giant armadillo is solitary by nature. It doesn't form groups or colonies. Each individual digs its own burrow, claims its own territory, lives its own quiet life. There's something peaceful in that solitude, isn't there? No social obligations, no competition for sleeping space, just the earth, the darkness, and rest. When night falls, the armadillo emerges. It snuffles through the forest floor, its keen sense of smell guiding it to food. It digs, it eats, it drinks from streams, and then, as dawn approaches, it returns to the earth, back to the burrow, back to sleep. In recent years, scientists have learned more about these elusive creatures. They're rare, difficult to study, mostly because they spend so much time underground, asleep and hidden. But we know they play an important role in their ecosystems. Their digging aerates the soil. Their burrows, once abandoned, become homes for other animals. They help control insect populations. In their quiet way, living slowly, sleeping deeply, they contribute to the health of their forests. The giant armadillo is listed as vulnerable. Habitat loss threatens it. Its forest homes are being cleared. But conservation efforts are underway. People are working to protect these ancient sleepers, to ensure that somewhere in South America, giant armadillos will continue to dig their burrows, to sleep their long sleeps, to shuffle through the night in search of termites. There's something worth protecting in that, something worth preserving. The right of a creature to simply exist, to sleep in peace, to live at its own slow, steady pace. As we think about the armadillo curled in its burrow, protected by earth and armor, resting deeply in the darkness, we might feel a little envious. To have such a perfect sleeping space, to be able to surrender to sleep for 18 hours without worry, without alarm clocks, without obligations. The armadillo has found its balance, its way of being in the world. And in that balance, sleep takes up most of the hours. Not because the armadillo is lazy, but because that's what its body needs, what its life requires. Rest as a survival strategy. Sleep as wisdom. Let us carry that thought with us as we move on to our next sleeper. Now we travel to the eucalyptus forests of Australia, to a creature so iconic for its sleepiness that it's become almost synonymous with rest itself. The koala. These gentle marsupials sleep between 18 and 22 hours every single day. Nearly the entire day spent motionless in the fork of a eucalyptus tree, eyes closed, limbs draped over branches, completely surrendered to sleep. Why do koalas sleep so much? The answer lies in their diet. Koalas eat eucalyptus leaves, almost exclusively eucalyptus leaves. And eucalyptus leaves are, to put it simply, terrible food. They're tough, fibrous, low in nutrients, and highly toxic. Most animals can't eat them at all. But koalas have evolved specialized digestive systems that allow them to process eucalyptus. They have extra-long digestive tracts and a cecum, a specialized part of the intestine that houses bacteria capable of breaking down the tough fibers and neutralizing the toxins. But this process is extraordinarily energy-intensive. Digesting eucalyptus leaves takes time and requires enormous amounts of energy. The koala's liver works constantly to filter out toxins. Its digestive system churns slowly, extracting what little nutrition it can from leaves that are mostly indigestible fiber. And all of this happens while the koala sleeps. Sleep, for a koala, is when the real work of survival occurs. It's when digestion happens, when toxins are processed, when the body extracts calories from an almost impossible food source. Koalas have the smallest brain-to-body ratio of any mammal. Their brains are tiny, smooth, lacking the folds and complexity of most mammalian brains. This isn't a sign of lower intelligence. It's an energy-saving adaptation. Brains are expensive, metabolically speaking. They consume enormous amounts of energy. By having a smaller, simpler brain, the koala reduces its energy requirements, making it possible to survive on eucalyptus leaves. It's a trade-off. Less brain power, more sleep, survival on a diet that would kill most other animals. When a koala does wake up, it moves slowly, deliberately. It reaches out with its strong arms and grasps another branch. It pulls a eucalyptus leaf to its mouth and chews, slowly and methodically, grinding the tough leaves with its specialized teeth. It might eat for an hour or two, consuming about a pound of leaves. Then, satisfied, it settles back into sleep. It finds a comfortable fork in the branches, wedges itself in securely, and closes its eyes. The tree holds it. The tree supports it. And the koala trusts that support completely, sleeping 20 feet or more above the ground without fear of falling. The eucalyptus tree provides more than just food. It provides safety. Most predators can't climb as well as a koala can. Up in the branches, the koala is largely safe from dingoes, from foxes, from most of the dangers that walk the ground. The tree is fortress and bed and dining room all at once. And because eucalyptus trees are so abundant in Australia, because most other animals don't compete for eucalyptus leaves, the koala has found a niche where it can exist with relatively little competition. Mother koalas carry their joeys in pouches, just like kangaroos. The joey spends months in the pouch, drinking milk, growing slowly. Eventually, it emerges and begins to ride on its mother's back. And what does it learn there, clinging to its mother as she sleeps? It learns that sleep is safe. It learns the rhythm of the eucalyptus forest, the slow cycle of eating and sleeping, sleeping and eating. When the joey is around 6 months old, the mother begins feeding it a special substance called pap, partially digested eucalyptus leaves that help establish the necessary gut bacteria in the joey's digestive system. It's how the ability to digest eucalyptus is passed down, not just genetically, but through this transfer of microorganisms. And then the joey, equipped with its own colony of eucalyptus digesting bacteria, begins its own life of eating and sleeping, sleeping and eating. There's something deeply peaceful about watching a koala sleep. They look so content, so completely relaxed. Their fur is thick and soft, perfect insulation against cool nights and hot days. Their ears twitch occasionally, monitoring the world even in sleep. Their breathing is slow and steady. They are the picture of restfulness. And perhaps that's why humans are so drawn to them, why we find them so endearing. They remind us of what we've lost, what modern life has taken from us. The ability to simply rest, to sleep when we need to sleep, to trust that the world will still be there when we wake. Koalas are facing challenges now. Climate change is affecting eucalyptus forests. Droughts are becoming more common. Bushfires have devastated populations. Habitat fragmentation forces koalas to travel on the ground between trees, making them vulnerable to cars and dogs. But efforts are underway to protect them, to preserve their forests, to ensure that these sleepy creatures continue to doze in the branches. Because a world without koalas would be a little less peaceful, a little less restful. They remind us of something important. That sometimes the wisest response to a difficult world is simply to find a safe place. Close your eyes and sleep. From the eucalyptus forests, we drift now to the rainforests of Central and South America, to creatures so synonymous with slowness that their very name has become a metaphor. The sloths. These remarkable animals sleep between 15 and 20 hours per day, hanging from branches, moving so slowly when awake that they seem almost part of the tree itself. There are two main types of sloths, two-toed and three-toed, and they have different sleep patterns. Two-toed sloths are more active and sleep less, around 15 to 16 hours per day. Three-toed sloths are the true champions of rest, sleeping up to 20 hours in a 24-hour period. But both share the same basic approach to life. Do everything slowly, conserve energy, and sleep as much as possible. The sloth's slowness is not laziness, it's strategy. Sloths have the slowest metabolic rate of any mammal on Earth. Their body temperature is lower than most mammals, ranging from 86 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit, fluctuating with the ambient temperature. They can't regulate their body temperature as precisely as we can. They're almost like reptiles in that way, dependent on their environment to stay warm or cool. This slow metabolism means they need very little food, but it also means they have very little energy to spare. A sloth's diet consists mainly of leaves. Like the koala, the sloth has chosen a food source that's abundant, but not particularly nutritious. Leaves are everywhere in the rainforest canopy, but they're tough, hard to digest, and low in calories. The sloth has a multi-chambered stomach, similar to a cow's, where bacteria slowly ferment and break down the cellulose in leaves. This digestion process can take up to 30 days. 30 days for a single meal to pass through the digestive system. During all that time, the sloth sleeps, hangs, waits. Its body slowly extracts nutrients. Its metabolism ticks along at its own unhurried pace. When a sloth sleeps, it has several positions it prefers. Sometimes it hangs from a branch using its long, curved claws, which lock into place and hold it securely. Even if a sloth dies while hanging, its claws might keep it suspended there. It's a bit macabre, but it demonstrates just how powerful that grip is, how secure the sloth feels in the canopy. Other times, a sloth will sit in the fork of branches, its arms wrapped around a trunk, its head tucked down onto its chest. In this position, it looks almost like a furry coconut, a strange growth on the tree. The sloth's fur is an ecosystem unto itself. It grows in the opposite direction from most mammals' fur, from belly to spine, allowing rain to run off easily when the sloth is hanging upside down. And living in that fur are algae, green algae that grow in grooves along each hair, giving the sloth a slightly greenish tint that helps it blend in with the foliage. The sloth doesn't mind. The algae don't harm it. In fact, they help it hide from predators. There are also moths that live in the sloth's fur, and beetles and other tiny creatures. The sloth is a mobile garden, a hanging habitat, a world within a world. Predators struggle to see sloths because sloths move so little. An eagle might fly overhead, scanning the canopy for movement. But the sloth doesn't move. It hangs, still as a branch, green as a leaf, invisible in plain sight. The sloth has discovered that stillness is a form of camouflage. When you move slowly enough, when you sleep 20 hours a day, you don't draw attention. You don't trigger the predator's instinct to chase. You become part of the scenery, overlooked, unseen. Once a week, The sloth descends from the tree to defecate. This is the most dangerous time in a sloth's life. On the ground, it's vulnerable. It can't move quickly. If a jaguar or an ocelot finds it, the sloth has little defense. Scientists have puzzled over why sloths come down at all. Why not just defecate from the tree, letting waste fall to the forest floor? The answer seems to be related to the moths that live in the sloth's fur. When the sloth defecates at the base of its tree, female moths lay their eggs in the dung. When the eggs hatch, the caterpillars feed on the dung, then metamorphose into moths that fly up into the canopy to find another sloth. These moths, in turn, die in the sloth's fur, and their bodies add nutrients that help the algae grow. The algae may even provide supplemental nutrition to the sloth when it grooms itself. It's a complex, interconnected relationship, and it requires the sloth to make that weekly journey to the ground. But most of the time, the sloth stays in the canopy, hanging in sleep. Its heart rate is slow, around 40 to 50 beats per minute at rest. Its breathing is slow. Everything about it is slow. And in that slowness, there is peace. There is no rushing, no anxiety, no pressure. The sloth has nowhere to be except right here, right now, hanging from this branch. When it wakes, it might eat a few leaves. It might move to another branch, a journey that could take hours. Then it sleeps again. Three-toed sloths smile. At least, they appear to. The structure of their face gives them a permanent, gentle smile, a serene expression that makes them look content, wise even. Maybe they are content. Maybe when you live this slowly, when you sleep this much, when you've given up the race entirely, there is contentment. The sloth has opted out of the frantic pace of life that characterizes so many animals. It has found its own way, slow and steady, sleeping and surviving. There's a lesson in that, perhaps, that we don't all have to live at the same speed, that slowness can be a valid choice, even a wise one. That rest is not something to feel guilty about, but something to embrace. Let us move now to another creature, one found across the Americas, from Canada to Argentina. A humble animal, often overlooked, sometimes feared without reason. The opossum. These marsupials sleep between 18 and 20 hours each day, resting in dens, tree hollows, and borrowed burrows, emerging at night to forage in the darkness. The opossum is North America's only marsupial, a living connection to a more ancient time when marsupials were common across many continents. They carry their young in pouches, just like kangaroos and koalas, but they're much smaller, scrappier, more adaptable. Opossums can live almost anywhere: forests, grasslands, suburbs, even cities. They're survivors, generalists, creatures that make do with whatever life offers them. Their scientific name, Didelphis virginiana, means double womb of Virginia, referring to their reproductive system. Female opossums give birth to tiny, underdeveloped young, sometimes as many as 20 in a single litter, though usually only 7 to 8 survive. These babies, each no larger than a honeybee at birth, crawl into their mother's pouch and attach to a teat, where they'll continue developing for about 2 months. During this time, the mother sleeps often, conserving energy while her babies grow inside the pouch. Opossums are nocturnal. They sleep during the day and forage at night, using their keen senses of smell and touch to find food. They're omnivores, eating almost anything: insects, small rodents, birds' eggs, fruits, carrion, garbage. This dietary flexibility is one of the reasons they're so successful. They don't need any specific food source. They adapt. They survive And when they're not foraging, they're sleeping. Unlike some of the other animals we've discussed, opossums don't have permanent dens. They're nomadic, moving from place to place, sleeping wherever they can find shelter. One night, it might be a hollow log. Another night, an abandoned burrow. They might nest in a brush pile, in the crawl space under a house, in a tree cavity. They gather leaves and grass with their prehensile tail, carrying nesting material to whatever temporary home they've chosen. Then they curl up and sleep, often alone, sometimes with their young. The opossum has an extraordinarily low body temperature for a mammal, around 95 degrees Fahrenheit. This low body temperature has interesting consequences. It makes them highly resistant to rabies. The rabies virus doesn't survive well at lower temperatures, so opossums rarely contract or spread the disease. They're also resistant to snake venom, able to withstand bites from pit vipers that would kill other animals their size. These resistances aren't fully understood, but they give the opossum an advantage, allow it to survive in environments where other small mammals might perish. One of the most famous opossum behaviors is playing possum. When threatened, an opossum might enter an involuntary catatonic state. It falls over, appears dead, its mouth open, tongue hanging out, eyes glazed. It might even emit a foul-smelling fluid from its anal glands, making it seem like it's already decaying. This isn't a conscious decision. The opossum doesn't choose to play dead. It's an automatic response to extreme fear, similar to fainting. The animal remains in this state anywhere from minutes to hours, completely unconscious. During this time, it's vulnerable, but many predators lose interest in prey that appears dead. When the opossum eventually comes to, it gets up and shuffles away, having survived the encounter. But this isn't the same as sleep. Sleep is something the opossum does willingly, regularly in safe places. Sleep is restorative, necessary. The opossum's 18 to 20-hour sleep cycle allows it to conserve energy, to survive on its irregular diet, to recover from the dangers of its nightly foraging. Opossums have short lifespans, typically only 2 to 4 years in the wild. They reproduce quickly, lie fast, and sleep often. It's a strategy that works for them, that has allowed them to thrive for millions of years. In recent years, people have begun to appreciate opossums more. They eat enormous numbers of ticks, thousands per season, helping to reduce Lyme disease transmission. They clean up carrion, acting as nature's sanitation crew. They're generally harmless to humans, non-aggressive, more likely to flee or play dead than to fight. And when you see one sleeping, curled up in a hollow, its pink nose tucked under its tail, there's something endearing about it, something vulnerable and honest. The opossum doesn't try to be impressive. It doesn't have armor like the armadillo, or the iconic cuteness of the koala, or the fascinating slowness of the sloth. It's just a small, scruffy marsupial doing its best to survive in a world that often overlooks it. And mostly, it does that by sleeping, by finding a safe spot, closing its eyes and resting through the daylight hours. There's dignity in that, a kind of humble wisdom. The opossum knows its limits. It knows it's not the fastest or the strongest. So it sleeps, it hides, it survives. And that's enough. Now we travel to the island of Madagascar, that remarkable place separated from Africa millions of years ago, where evolution took its own unique path. Here live the lemurs, primates found nowhere else on Earth. Among the many species of lemurs, some are champion sleepers, resting for 16 hours or more each day. The fat-tailed dwarf lemur is perhaps the most remarkable sleeper of all lemurs. This tiny primate, weighing only about 10 ounces, is the only primate known to hibernate. During Madagascar's dry season, when food becomes scarce, the fat-tailed dwarf lemur enters a state of deep torpor that can last for 7 months. 7 months of barely living, of existing in a state between life and death, surviving on fat stored in its tail. Before the dry season begins, the lemur eats voraciously. It consumes fruits, flowers, insects, whatever it can find, packing on weight until its tail swells with stored fat. The tail becomes so engorged that it can be nearly as thick as the lemur's body. This fat is fuel, the energy reserve that will sustain the lemur through months of hibernation. Once the dry season starts and food disappears, the lemur retreats to a tree hole. It curls into a tight ball, often with other lemurs for warmth, and its body shuts down. During hibernation, the lemur's body temperature drops to match the ambient temperature. Its heart rate plummets. Its breathing becomes barely perceptible, sometimes only a few breaths per hour. Its metabolism slows to an absolute minimum. In this state, the lemur burns through its fat reserves incredibly slowly, just enough to keep the essential processes of life continuing. It doesn't wake to eat or drink. It simply exists in suspension, waiting for the rains to return. When the rainy season finally arrives, when food becomes available again, the lemur gradually wakes. It's a slow process, taking hours. Its body temperature rises. Its heart begins to beat faster. It stirs, blinks, looks around with large, round eyes. It has survived. It has made it through the harsh, dry season by sleeping through it entirely, by opting out of the struggle to find food where there is none. And now, thin and hungry, it begins to forage again, to rebuild its strength, to prepare for the next cycle. But even when not hibernating, fat-tailed dwarf lemurs sleep extensively, about 16 hours per day. They're nocturnal, sleeping in tree holes during the day and foraging at night. Often, several lemurs will sleep together in the same hole, huddled for warmth and safety. This communal sleeping seems to strengthen social bonds, to create cohesion within the group. When they emerge at night, they move through the trees together, communicate with soft chirps and calls, forage cooperatively. Other lemur species also sleep extensively, though they don't hibernate. Ring-tailed lemurs, those striking primates with long black and white striped tails, sleep about 13 to 14 hours per day. They're more social than dwarf lemurs, living in groups of up to 30 individuals. At night, they sleep in trees, often all together in a single tree, a pile of lemurs huddled on branches. In the morning, they descend and perform one of their most charming behaviors, sunbathing. They sit on the ground, facing the sun, arms stretched out to the sides, absorbing warmth. They look like they're worshipping the sun, or meditating, or doing yoga. It's thermoregulation, warming their bodies after the cool night. But it's also peaceful, contemplative, a gentle start to the day. Madagascar's lemurs are endangered. Habitat destruction threatens them. Forests are being cleared for agriculture. Many species have small, fragmented populations. The fat-tailed dwarf lemur is listed as vulnerable. Conservation efforts are crucial, working to protect the remaining forests, to create corridors between fragments, to ensure that lemurs have the habitat they need to survive. Because losing lemurs would mean losing something irreplaceable. These creatures exist nowhere else. They're unique. Millions of years of separate evolution creating animals found on this island, and only this island. There's something special about knowing that somewhere in Madagascar, in a hole in a tree, a tiny lemur sleeps. Maybe it's hibernating, its body cold, its heartbeat slow, surviving on stored fat. Or maybe it's just resting through the day, curled up with its family members, safe in the darkness of the tree hollow. Either way, it's sleeping deeply, trusting in sleep's ability to preserve life, to carry it through difficult times. The lemur has found a way to survive in a challenging environment. It has adapted, evolved, specialized, and a large part of that adaptation is sleep. Lots and lots of sleep. Let us shift now to the reptiles, to creatures whose relationship with sleep is different from mammals, but no less fascinating. The python, those magnificent serpents found across Africa, Asia, and Australia, sleep for about 18 hours per day. But python sleep is tied intimately to feeding, to the enormous meals these constrictors consume. Pythons are ambush predators. They don't chase their prey. They wait, sometimes for weeks, coiled in perfect stillness, waiting for an animal to pass within striking distance. When prey comes close, the python strikes with incredible speed, seizing the animal in its jaws, then coiling its powerful body around it. The python doesn't crush its prey, as is commonly believed. Instead, it tightens its coils each time the prey exhales, making it impossible for the animal to draw another breath. Death comes from suffocation, and once the prey is dead, the python begins the slow process of swallowing it whole. This is where the python's sleep patterns become truly remarkable. After consuming a large meal, something as big as an antelope or a pig, the python enters an extended rest period. It finds a safe spot and remains there, motionless for days or even weeks. During this time, extraordinary changes occur inside its body. Its metabolism spikes dramatically. Its heart enlarges by up to 40% to handle the increased demands. Its intestines grow longer and heavier. Its liver, pancreas, and kidneys all increase in size and activity. The python's body becomes a digestive factory, pouring resources into breaking down the massive meal. This process requires enormous energy, but it happens while the python sleeps. The snake doesn't move. It doesn't hunt. It doesn't do anything except digest. All its energy goes toward processing the meal, extracting every possible nutrient, absorbing everything it can. A large meal might sustain a python for months. One successful hunt, one period of intense digestion and sleep, and the python has the energy it needs to survive for a long time. Pythons, like all reptiles, are ectothermic, meaning they can't generate their own body heat. Their body temperature matches the environment. This has profound effects on their sleep patterns. When it's warm, their metabolism runs faster, digestion proceeds more quickly, and they're more active when awake. When it's cold, everything slows down. In cooler months, pythons may enter a state called brumation, similar to hibernation, but not quite the same. They become sluggish, stop eating, and rest in burrows or other sheltered spots. They're not deeply asleep like a hibernating mammal, but they're not fully awake either. They exist in a kind of low-power mode, conserving energy until warmth returns. One of the strangest things about snake sleep is that snakes can't close their eyes. They have no eyelids. Instead, their eyes are covered by transparent scales called spectacles or brilles, which protect the eye while allowing the snake to see. So when a python sleeps, its eyes remain open. It looks awake, alert, aware. But it's not. It's asleep, its brain in a different state, its body resting. The only way to tell if a python is asleep is by its behavior. A sleeping python doesn't respond to stimuli the way a waking one does. It's less reactive, slower to respond, deep in whatever passes for dreams in a reptilian brain. Do snakes dream? We don't know. Their brains are structured differently from mammalian brains. They lack the neocortex that, in mammals, seems to be involved in generating dreams. But that doesn't mean they don't have some form of sleep-related brain activity. Scientists have observed that sleeping snakes show changes in their brainwave patterns, suggesting different sleep stages. What those stages mean, what the snake experiences during them, remains a mystery. Pythons are patient creatures. They have to be. In environments where large prey is scarce, the ability to eat one enormous meal and then sleep it off for months is invaluable. The python doesn't need to hunt constantly. It doesn't expend energy searching for food every day. It waits, sleeps, digests, and waits some more. It's a life stripped down to essentials. Hunt rarely, eat enormously, sleep deeply, repeat. There's an elegance to that simplicity. In many cultures, snakes are symbols of transformation, of cycles, of death and rebirth. Perhaps that's partly because of how they sleep. The python that has just eaten seems almost dead itself, swollen with its meal, unmoving for days, vulnerable in its stillness. But it's not dying. It's transforming. It's converting prey into energy, into growth, into the fuel it needs to survive. And when it finally wakes, slides out of its resting place, and begins to hunt again, it's been reborn in a sense, renewed, ready for the next cycle. From reptiles, let us return to mammals, to one of the most iconic animals on Earth. The lion, king of the savannah, apex predator, symbol of strength and courage. And yet, despite all that power, despite that regal reputation, lions sleep between 18 and 20 hours every day. The kings and queens of the animal world spend most of their lives resting. If you've ever been on safari in Africa, you know the reality of seeing lions. Most of the time, they're sleeping. You'll find a pride lounging in the shade of an acacia tree, sprawled on their backs, paws in the air, completely relaxed. You'll see cubs clambering over sleeping adults, biting ears and tails, trying to provoke play while the adults barely stir. You'll watch a magnificent male with a huge dark mane, and he'll sleep through the entire viewing, occasionally twitching an ear to discourage flies, but otherwise motionless. It's not quite what people imagine when they think of lions. We picture them hunting, roaring, fighting, but mostly they sleep. Why? The answer lies in energy management. Hunting is extraordinarily energy intensive, and hunting success rates are low. Lions hunt large prey, zebras, wildebeest, buffalo, sometimes even giraffes or young elephants. These hunts require explosive bursts of speed, incredible strength, coordination among pride members. A lion's heart pounds, muscles burn, body temperature soars. A single hunt can burn through enormous amounts of energy. And here's the thing. Most hunts fail. Lions succeed only about 20 to 30% of the time. 3 out of 4 hunts end with no food. So lions have adapted a feast or famine lifestyle. When a hunt succeeds, they gorge. A single lion might eat 55 pounds of meat in one sitting. They eat until they can barely move, their bellies distended, meat drunk and satisfied. Then they sleep. They rest, digest, and sleep some more. Days might pass between successful hunts, so when they do eat, They eat as much as possible, storing energy, preparing for the next period of scarcity. Sleep also helps lions cope with the African heat. During the middle of the day, when the sun is high and temperatures soar above 100 degrees, hunting is nearly impossible. Running in that heat would cause dangerous overheating. So lions rest, usually in shade, panting to dissipate heat, conserving energy and staying cool. They become active in the cooler hours, dawn, dusk, sometimes at night. These are the hunting times, when temperatures are bearable and prey animals are also active. Lions are social sleepers. A pride might consist of several related females, their cubs, and one or more adult males. They sleep together, often piled on top of each other, heads resting on flanks, tails intertwined. This physical contact serves multiple purposes. It reinforces social bonds, maintains the pride's cohesion. It provides comfort and security. Young cubs sleep among adults, protected, warm, safe. Even the fierce males, those symbols of solitary power, sleep among the pride, part of the group. But sleeping pride members aren't completely unconscious. At any given time, some individuals will be in lighter sleep, maintaining vigilance. Ears swivel, catching sounds. Eyes open periodically, scanning the surroundings. Lions have threats, even as apex predators. Hyenas compete with them, sometimes attacking sleeping lions or stealing kills. Male lions from rival prides pose dangers, particularly to cubs. Elephants and buffalo can be deadly if provoked. So even in sleep, there's awareness, a level of alertness maintained. Lion cubs sleep even more than adults, sometimes 22 hours a day. They're growing rapidly, their bodies developing. Sleep is when growth happens, when growth hormones are released, when tissues build and repair. The cubs play, rough and tumble, practicing the skills they'll need as adults. They pounce on each other, stalk beetles in the grass, bite their mothers' tails. Then, exhausted, they collapse and sleep. Often, you'll see a pile of sleeping cubs, a tangle of paws and tails and ears, all breathing slowly, occasionally twitching as they dream of hunts they haven't yet experienced. What do lions dream about? We can't know, but they clearly have REM sleep, that stage associated with dreaming in mammals. You can see it. The twitching whiskers, the moving paws, the soft vocalizations. A sleeping lion might chirp or grumble, might paddle its feet as though running. Are they chasing prey in their dreams, reliving past hunts, playing through scenarios? Their brains are processing something, consolidating memories, perhaps rehearsing the complex social and hunting skills that keep them alive. There's something humbling about watching lions sleep. These powerful predators, these symbols of strength, spend most of their lives at rest. They're not constantly prowling, not always fighting or hunting. They're sleeping in the shade, resting with family, conserving energy. It reminds us that strength doesn't mean constant action. That power includes knowing when to rest. That even the king of beasts needs sleep, needs downtime, needs to surrender to unconsciousness and let the body recover. As the sun sets over the savannah, as the air begins to cool, the pride starts to stir. Eyes open, heads lift. Lions yawn, displaying impressive teeth, stretching their bodies. They groom each other, reinforcing bonds. Cubs become playful, racing around. The pride begins to move, shadows in the gathering darkness, ready for the night's activities. But in a few hours, after patrolling territory, after perhaps making a kill or scavenging a meal, they'll settle down again. They'll find another resting spot, and they'll sleep once more, deeply and peacefully, trusting in each other, in their strength, in sleep itself. Now let us pause in our journey through the sleepiest animals and consider sleep itself. What is sleep? Why does it exist? Every animal we've discussed, despite their incredible diversity, from bats to pythons to lions, all share this fundamental need. They must sleep, and so must we. Sleep is universal among animals, one of the great unifying features of life. Yet it remains, in many ways, mysterious. Scientists have proposed several theories to explain why sleep evolved. One is energy conservation. Sleep allows animals to reduce their metabolic rate during times when they don't need to be active. A bat sleeping through the day conserves energy for nighttime hunting. A lion sleeping through the hot afternoon avoids dangerous overheating. By sleeping, animals align their active periods with times when activity is most beneficial, and they reduce energy expenditure when activity would be wasteful or dangerous. Another theory involves restoration and repair. During sleep, bodies heal. Growth hormone is released, promoting tissue growth and repair. Immune function increases. Sleep strengthens our ability to fight off disease. Muscle recovery happens during sleep. Athletes know that rest days are as important as training days. The body needs time to rebuild, to fix damage, to consolidate gains. Sleep provides that time. Without adequate sleep, healing slows, immune systems weaken, bodies break down. The brain, too, requires sleep, perhaps most urgently. During waking hours, our brains are active, neurons firing constantly, forming connections, processing information. This activity generates waste products, metabolic byproducts that accumulate in brain tissue. Recent research has discovered that during sleep, the brain's waste clearance system, called the glymphatic system, becomes highly active. Cerebrospinal fluid washes through brain tissue, carrying away accumulated toxins. It's like the brain takes out its trash while we sleep. Without this cleansing process, toxic proteins accumulate, potentially contributing to neurodegenerative diseases. Sleep also seems crucial for memory consolidation. During the day, we experience countless things, learn new information, form new memories. But these memories are initially fragile. Sleep, particularly REM sleep, helps stabilize them, transferring them from short-term to long-term storage, integrating them with existing knowledge. When we say we need to sleep on it, there's literal truth there. Problems that seem insurmountable at night often feel manageable in the morning. The brain has been working on them during sleep, making connections, finding solutions. Different animals have different sleep needs and patterns. Some sleep for minutes at a time, in brief naps throughout the day. Others, like the animals we've been discussing, sleep for huge chunks of time. Some animals, like dolphins and some birds, have developed unihemispheric sleep, where only half the brain sleeps at a time. The other half remains awake, allowing the animal to surface and breathe, or to keep flying, or to watch for predators. It's a remarkable adaptation, a compromise that allows them to sleep while still maintaining essential functions. Marine mammals face unique challenges. Dolphins must consciously breathe. Breathing isn't automatic like it is for land mammals. If a dolphin falls fully asleep, it could drown. So they've evolved this split brain sleeping, where one hemisphere rests while the other stays alert enough to bring the dolphin to the surface for air. They might sleep for 8 hours total in a day, but it's never all at once, never both hemispheres simultaneously. Part of the dolphin is always awake. In contrast, some animals barely sleep at all. Giraffes sleep only about 30 minutes to 2 hours per day, usually in short naps of a few minutes each. They're prey animals, tall and vulnerable when lying down, so they mostly sleep standing up and very briefly. Elephants, similarly, sleep only 2 to 4 hours per day, often standing or leaning against trees. Large prey animals can't afford the luxury of extended sleep. The risks are too high. But then there are animals at the other extreme, the ones we've been celebrating, the 20-hour sleepers. For them, extensive sleep is not a luxury, but a necessity. Their diets, their metabolisms, their ecological niches all require it. Sleep for them is a survival strategy as crucial as any physical adaptation. Understanding sleep in animals helps us understand our own sleep. Humans need about 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, placing us somewhere in the middle of the sleep spectrum. We're not champion sleepers like bats or koalas, but we're not minimal sleepers like giraffes either. We're moderate, balanced. Yet modern human life often interferes with sleep. Artificial light, busy schedules, stress, electronic devices all conspire to reduce our sleep, to fragment it, to lower its quality. The consequences of sleep deprivation are severe. Cognitive function declines, reaction times slow, mood suffers, creativity and problem-solving abilities diminish. Long-term sleep deprivation contributes to obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function. It shortens lifespan. Sleep isn't optional. It's not something we can cheat or skip without consequences. Every animal that sleeps does so because it must. Because sleep is fundamental to life itself. There's comfort in that universality. When we struggle with sleep, when we lie awake worried that we're wasting time, we can remember the lions. The powerful, majestic lions spend 20 hours sleeping. The intelligent, capable koalas sleep 22 hours. Sleep is not weakness or laziness. Sleep is wisdom. Sleep is strength. Sleep is the body's way of maintaining itself, of surviving, of preparing for the challenges ahead. As we return now to our tour of sleeping animals, let us remember these principles, that sleep is universal, essential, and diverse, that each creature has found its own balance, its own rhythm, and that in studying them, we learn not just about them, but about ourselves, about what we need, about how to live in better harmony with our own biological requirements. There are other remarkable sleepers we should acknowledge, creatures whose sleep patterns fascinate, even if we don't have time to explore each one in depth. Let us visit them briefly, honoring their commitment to rest. The tiger, that magnificent striped hunter of Asian forests, sleeps between 16 and 18 hours per day. Like lions, tigers expend enormous energy hunting and they sleep to recover. But unlike lions, tigers are solitary. There's no pride to rest with, no communal pile of sleeping bodies. A tiger sleeps alone, hidden in dense vegetation or in caves, vulnerable in its solitude, but secure in its strength. When it wakes, it hunts alone, relying on stealth and power rather than coordinated attacks. The tiger's sleep is deeper, perhaps, than the lion's. There's no need to maintain pride vigilance, no cubs to monitor. Just the individual tiger, resting, gathering strength for the next hunt. Squirrels, those bushy-tailed acrobats of trees and parks, sleep between 14 and 16 hours per day. But their sleep patterns vary dramatically with the seasons. In summer, when food is abundant, squirrels are active, gathering nuts and seeds, caching food for winter. They sleep less during these productive times. But in winter, particularly in very cold regions, squirrels sleep much more. They don't true hibernate like some animals do, but they enter periods of torpor, their body temperature dropping, their metabolism slowing. They wake periodically to eat from their cached stores, then return to sleep. The squirrel's nest, called a dray, is a sphere of woven twigs and leaves, often high in a tree, lined with soft materials. Inside, multiple squirrels might huddle together for warmth, sleeping through the coldest parts of winter. Domestic cats sleep between 12 and 16 hours per day, and anyone who lives with a cat knows this well. Cats are crepuscular, most active during dawn and dusk. These are the hunting times, when their prey, small rodents and birds, are also active. During the middle of the day and the middle of the night, cats sleep. They're masters at finding comfortable sleeping spots, at sprawling in patches of sunlight, at curling into tight balls in cozy spaces. Cats cycle through light sleep and deep sleep, and it's easy to tell which stage they're in. A lightly sleeping cat has ears that swivel toward sounds, a tail that twitches, muscles ready to spring into action. A deeply sleeping cat is completely relaxed, sometimes in improbable positions, twisted and floppy, utterly at peace. Hamsters sleep about 14 hours per day, but they're nocturnal, so they sleep during the day when their owners often want to interact with them. In the wild, hamsters live in burrows underground, complex tunnel systems with multiple chambers. One chamber is for food storage, another for waste, and another for sleeping. The sleeping chamber is carefully constructed, lined with the softest materials the hamster can find: grass, fur, shredded paper if available. The hamster curls into a ball there, safe underground, protected from predators and temperature extremes, and sleeps soundly through the daylight hours. Pigs sleep between 13 and 14 hours per day. They're intelligent animals, capable of complex problem solving, and they have clear sleep preferences. Pigs like to nest, to gather straw or leaves, or any available material, and create a comfortable bed. Given the choice, pigs will nest together, sleeping in groups with physical contact. They're social sleepers, finding comfort and security in proximity to other pigs. Temperature matters to them. They're susceptible to both heat and cold. In hot weather, pigs might sleep in mud, which cools them. In cold weather, they nest in straw, huddling together for warmth. Tree shrews, small mammals that look somewhat like squirrels, sleep about 15 hours per day. They're among the most ancient mammals, relatively unchanged for millions of years, giving scientists insights into what early mammals might have been like. Tree shrews have high metabolic rates and must eat frequently. They forage for insects, fruits, and seeds during their waking hours, then retreat to nests to sleep. Their sleep is deep and restorative, necessary to maintain their fast-paced lifestyle. Chinchillas, those soft-furred rodents from the Andes Mountains, sleep between 12 and 14 hours per day. In the wild, they live in burrows or rock crevices at high altitudes where temperatures fluctuate dramatically. They're crepuscular, active during dawn and dusk when temperatures are moderate. Chinchillas are social animals, living in colonies called herds that can number over 100 individuals. They sleep together in their burrows, a mass of fur and warmth, protected from temperature extremes and from predators like foxes and birds of prey. Owl monkeys, the only truly nocturnal monkeys, sleep about 17 hours per day. They're found in the forests of Central and South America, living in family groups, sleeping in tree holes during the day and emerging at night to forage. Their large eyes help them see in darkness, but during the day, they're vulnerable. So they stay hidden, sleeping deeply in their tree hole refuges. The family sleeps together, father, mother, and offspring, maintaining close physical contact. This bonding, reinforced daily through communal sleep, creates strong family units that stay together for years. Each of these animals has found its own balance, its own rhythm of activity and rest. They remind us that there's no single correct amount of sleep, no universal schedule that all animals follow. Each species has evolved sleep patterns that match its ecological niche, its diet, its predators and prey, its environment. The flexibility of life is remarkable. From the giraffe's 2 hours to the bat's 20, sleep adapts, serves, sustains. Let us explore a few more fascinating facts about sleep across the animal kingdom, peculiarities and wonders that illuminate this mysterious necessity. Dolphins and porpoises have developed unihemispheric sleep, as we mentioned earlier. One half of their brain sleeps while the other remains awake. During this time, the awake hemisphere controls surfacing and breathing. The dolphin continues swimming, usually slowly and near the surface. Its eye on the awake side remains open, watching for predators, while the eye on the sleeping side closes. After about 2 hours, the hemispheres switch. The previously awake side goes to sleep, and the rested side takes over. It's a remarkable adaptation, allowing these marine mammals to be constantly vigilant, constantly breathing, yet still obtaining necessary rest. Walruses have a different strategy. They can sleep in water, floating vertically with their heads above the surface, or lying on the seafloor holding their breath. Walruses have been observed sleeping underwater for up to 5 minutes before surfacing to breathe. On land or ice, they sleep more conventionally, lying down in heaps with other walruses, sometimes using each other or their own air-filled neck pouches as pillows. Walruses can sleep for up to 19 hours at a stretch when they're resting on shore, recovering from long periods at sea. Albatrosses, those magnificent seabirds with wingspans up to 12 feet, spend most of their lives in flight over the ocean. They land only to breed. So, when do they sleep? Research has revealed that albatrosses take micro-naps while flying. These naps last only a few seconds each, but they add up. The bird might nap dozens or hundreds of times per day, accumulating enough sleep to function. They sleep more deeply when floating on the water's surface, but even then, they're alert to dangers. The albatross has found a way to sleep while covering thousands of miles of ocean, never truly stopping, always moving. Bullfrogs present a puzzle. Some early studies suggested they might not sleep at all, that they remain alert continuously. More recent research suggests they do have rest periods that qualify as sleep, but it's very different from mammalian sleep. The bullfrog's brain doesn't show the dramatic changes typical of sleep in other animals. They seem to exist in a state of reduced responsiveness, less active than when hunting or moving, but not clearly asleep in the way we understand it. Whether bullfrogs truly sleep remains a subject of scientific debate. Newborn animals often have unusual sleep patterns. Human babies sleep a lot, but unevenly, waking frequently. But consider the newborn dolphin. It doesn't sleep at all for the first month of its life. Neither does its mother. They both stay constantly active, the mother protecting and nursing the calf staying in motion to build strength and avoid predators. It's only after about a month that the calf begins to show sleep patterns, starting with unihemispheric sleep like adult dolphins. How the mother survives a month without sleep remains somewhat mysterious, though her body clearly adapts, finding ways to cope with this extraordinary demand. REM sleep, that stage characterized by rapid eye movement and vivid dreams in humans, occurs across many mammal species. Dogs clearly experience REM sleep. Watch a sleeping dog and you'll see it. The twitching paws, the muffled barks, the moving eyes beneath closed lids. They're dreaming. Cats too dream in REM sleep. But what about other animals? Birds show something similar to REM sleep, though it's briefer and different in some ways. Reptiles remain unclear. They may have precursors to REM sleep, but it's not as distinct. Some researchers have even suggested that spiders might have something like REM sleep, based on observations of periodic movements during their rest periods. But this is highly speculative. Sleep positions vary dramatically across species and tell us much about an animal's lifestyle and vulnerabilities. Prey animals often sleep standing up or in positions from which they can flee quickly. Horses sleep standing up for much of their rest period, their legs locked in place through a special anatomical feature. Predators, being less vulnerable, can sleep more deeply and in more relaxed positions. You'll see lions flat on their backs, legs in the air, completely exposed and relaxed. That's the privilege of being an apex predator, the ability to sleep without constant fear. Hibernation is an extreme form of sleep and metabolic suppression. Bears are famous hibernators, though their hibernation is different from, say, a ground squirrel's. Bears enter a state where their body temperature drops only slightly, from about 100 degrees to about 90 degrees. Their heart rate slows from 40 beats per minute to about 8. They don't eat, drink, urinate, or defecate for months. They survive on stored fat, breathing slowly, existing in a state of suspended animation. Pregnant bears even give birth during hibernation, nursing cubs while barely conscious themselves. In contrast, small hibernators like ground squirrels drop their body temperature to near freezing, sometimes below 40 degrees. Their hearts beat only once or twice per minute. They appear dead, frozen solid. But they're alive, just barely, and they wake periodically to warm up briefly before entering torpor again. Torpor is similar to hibernation, but shorter term. Many small mammals and birds use torpor to survive cold nights or periods when food is scarce. Hummingbirds enter torpor each night, their body temperature dropping dramatically, their heart rate slowing. This allows them to survive the night without eating, conserving the energy from the nectar they consumed during the day. In the morning, they warm up again, their metabolism revving back up to its normal frantic pace. It takes them about 20 minutes to wake from torpor, their bodies shivering to generate heat, their systems gradually coming back online. Sleep across the animal kingdom is beautifully diverse, adapted to countless different lifestyles and needs. Yet it's also universal. In some form, every animal sleeps. Every animal needs rest. This shared necessity connects us, from the smallest shrew to the largest whale, from bats to pythons to humans. We all surrender to sleep, trust in its restoration, depend on its effects. And in that surrender, there's something profound. As we near the end of our journey, let us reflect on what these sleeping animals teach us. In a world that often glorifies busyness, productivity, and constant activity, these creatures remind us of a different wisdom. They remind us that rest is essential, not optional. that sleep is a biological necessity, not a luxury or an indulgence. That taking time to recuperate, to slow down, to simply be still is not laziness, but intelligence. Consider the sloth, perhaps the ultimate philosopher of sleep. The sloth has opted out of the race entirely. It doesn't compete for speed or strength. It simply exists, slowly and peacefully, sleeping 20 hours a day, moving minimally, demanding little from life. And it survives. It thrives in its way. The sloth teaches us that there are many paths through life, many ways to be successful, and that slowness and rest can be valid strategies, not just in evolutionary terms, but in how we choose to live our own lives. The koala, surviving on a nearly impossible diet by sleeping almost constantly, teaches us about adaptation, about finding your niche, even if that niche requires extensive rest, about making peace with your limitations and finding ways to work with them rather than against them. The koala can't change what eucalyptus leaves are, can't make them more nutritious or less toxic. So it adapts, it sleeps, it survives. The bat, sleeping through the day in the safety of darkness, teaches us about finding sanctuary, about creating safe spaces where we can let our guard down, where we can rest deeply without fear. Everyone needs a cave, metaphorically speaking. A place of darkness and quiet where the world can't reach us, where we can simply sleep and let our bodies do the work of restoration. Lions teach us that even the powerful need rest. That strength and sleep are not opposites, but partners. That the most effective predators are not those who are constantly active, but those who know when to act and when to conserve energy. The lion's 20 hours of sleep are not a weakness. They're a strategic advantage, allowing for explosive action when it matters, when a hunt begins, when territory must be defended. The giant armadillo, sleeping underground in deep burrows, teaches us about the value of retreat. Sometimes, the wisest thing we can do is remove ourselves from the surface chaos, go deep, and rest in the earth's embrace, to create space between ourselves and the demands of the world, to recognize that we can't be constantly available, constantly responding, constantly engaged. And what of us? We humans, with our moderate sleep needs, our 7 to 9 hours per night. We're balanced between extremes, not minimal sleepers, but not champion sleepers either. Yet in modern life, we often treat sleep as though it were optional, something to be minimized or sacrificed when other demands press. We stay up late, wake early, fill our schedules beyond capacity, and wonder why we feel exhausted, why our health suffers, why our minds feel foggy and our emotions volatile. The animal kingdom offers us a different perspective. Sleep is not the enemy of productivity. Sleep is the foundation of it. Every animal that sleeps extensively does so because sleep enables their waking life. The bat's 20 hours of sleep power its nightly hunts. The koala's 22 hours of sleep allow it to survive on eucalyptus. The lion's extended rest periods enable its explosive hunting sprints. Sleep doesn't prevent success. Sleep enables it. We live in a time of sleep deprivation. Studies show that a huge percentage of people in developed nations don't get enough sleep. We're chronically tired, running on caffeine and willpower, proud of how little sleep we need, wearing our exhaustion like a badge of honor. But the animals we've met tonight remind us that this isn't wisdom. This is folly. Every creature that evolves tends toward behaviors that enhance survival. Sleep enhances survival. Trying to minimize it, to function with less, To treat it as an inconvenience goes against millions of years of evolutionary wisdom. What would happen if we treated sleep with the respect it deserves? If we prioritized it, protected it, made it non-negotiable? If we created our own caves, our own burrows, spaces of darkness and quiet where sleep could come easily and deeply? If we let go of the guilt that often accompanies rest, the feeling that we should be doing more, producing more, achieving more. The animals don't feel guilty about sleeping. The lion doesn't apologize for its 20 hours of rest. The bat doesn't agonize over whether it's being lazy. They sleep because they need to, because sleep is essential, because that's how life works. There's something deeply peaceful in accepting this, in acknowledging that we're not machines, that we can't run indefinitely without rest, that sleep is not our enemy, but our ally. In recognizing that the quiet, still hours of sleep are when some of our most important work happens, when our bodies heal, when our brains consolidate memories and solve problems, when we process emotions and experiences, when we reset, restore, renew. As you listen to these words, you might feel sleep pulling at you, your eyelids growing heavy, your thoughts drifting, your body relaxing. That's good. That's natural. In fact, that's the whole point. We've journeyed through the animal kingdom, meeting the champion sleepers, the creatures who have mastered the art of rest. We've learned about their lives, their adaptations, their wisdom. And now it's time to apply that wisdom ourselves. Somewhere right now, a brown bat hangs in a cave, wrapped in its wings, deeply asleep. A koala dozes in a eucalyptus tree, secure in the fork of branches. A sloth hangs from a limb in a rainforest, so still it seems part of the tree itself. An opossum curls in a hollow log, nose tucked under its tail. A lemur huddles with its family in a tree hole in Madagascar. A python, having eaten its fill, rests in a sunny spot, digesting slowly. A lion sleeps in the shade, surrounded by its pride. And somewhere, a giant armadillo dreams in its underground burrow, armored even in sleep, safe in the earth. They're all sleeping, all resting, all trusting in sleep's ability to sustain them. And we can trust it too. Sleep is our birthright, shared with every animal that has ever lived. It's the universal pause, the necessary stillness, the time when we let go of control and let our bodies do what they know how to do. We don't have to force sleep. We just have to allow it, to create the conditions for it, to stop resisting it. So let yourself rest now. Let your breathing slow, deep and even. Let your muscles relax one by one, releasing tension you didn't even know you were holding. Let your thoughts drift and scatter. No need to hold on to them. They'll still be there tomorrow if they matter. Let your mind quiet, like a pond when the wind stops, becoming smooth and still. Let sleep come, gently and naturally, like the tide coming in, inevitable and peaceful. You are safe here. There are no predators to fear, no immediate dangers. You can sleep deeply, completely, without reservation. The world will continue without you for these hours, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, it's necessary. Sleep is how we participate in the world's rhythms, in the daily cycle of activity and rest that governs all life. By sleeping, you're not withdrawing from life. You're engaging with one of its most fundamental patterns. Thank you for taking this journey through the kingdom of sleepers. Thank you for listening to stories of bats and armadillos, koalas and sloths, opossums and lemurs, pythons and lions. Thank you for learning about sleep, about rest, about the wisdom that comes from simply being still. And now, Thank you for letting yourself drift into sleep, for trusting it, for surrendering to it. May your sleep be deep and restorative. May you wake refreshed, renewed, restored. May you carry with you the wisdom of the sleepers, the understanding that rest is strength, that sleep is survival, that stillness is sacred. Sleep well, sleep deeply, sleep peacefully. The world of dreams awaits, and beyond that, morning will come as it always does, with its own gifts and challenges. But for now, there is only sleep, only rest, only peace. Good night.